I'm honored to be here in this dialogue, which is in the heart of our discussion at the Dubai Future Foundation. And I think the only way forward for us to really come up with solutions for this challenging topic is really to discuss it with like-minded people and with leaders in this field. So today we're honored to have our fellow panelists, starting with Her Excellency Jelena Begović, the Minister of Science and Technological Development and Innovations from the Republic of Serbia. And Your Excellency, I have to say, I've been to the biotech conference. I was honored and invited by the Prime Minister, who has done, Her Excellency Ana Brnabić has done a fantastic job specifically focusing on the biotech forum in partnership with the World Economic Forum. So congratulations on that, and I think the convening over there will play a massive role on how things go forward. So welcome and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And we also have His Excellency Kyriacos Kokkinos, Deputy Minister of Research, Innovation and Digital Policy. Thank you for being with us here, Your Excellency, and I look forward to having a fruitful discussion with you and contributing to a better world.
It's my honor.
Last but not least, we have Dr. Costi Perricos, Global AI and Data Leader, who will definitely add and contribute to this discussion about the metahuman versus humanization and how can we really create the better world for everyone, leveraging on the technologies. So, Your Excellency, maybe starting with you, if you don't mind, let's talk about maybe biotech and the advancement of biotech, where initially the discussions of leveraging on technology and biotech was extremely simple to the level that biotech has reached at the moment. What are the magnitudes that can take us in this space, and where do you see it going?
Thank you for inviting me. It's really my pleasure to be here in Dubai and to be on this panel. Well, if we talk about biotech, I mean, the things that are happening for past, I would say, a little bit more than a decade, are really very hard to assess the path that we're taking as a humanity. I would just focus on one maybe area where at this moment we are, as a species, starting to change our own evolution. So we managed somehow, thanks to the biotech development, to change the evolution of other organisms. We are creating artificial organisms that are living, that are dividing. I'm talking about microorganisms. We managed to read our genetical information, but now we can synthesize our genetical information. So the momentum is, I think, really a milestone in our own development and our own evolution. So this brings us also to a lot of legal and ethical questions, but nevertheless, as a humanity, every technology that we conquired, we never gave up. So either there are always, of course, threats and potential misuses, but nevertheless, we never give up. So this is how it's going to be with biotech. I won't go into details because we have, I think, a lot of different questions, but for me, at this moment, I think this momentum of intervening in our own potentially evolution through genetic editing is maybe the major thing that is happening.
Just to add to that, how much control will we have on our bodies?
Well, the technology is really developing in a speedlight. On the other hand, the legal framework, the ethics is really lagging behind on a global level. It's very difficult to face what is happening from ethical part, from religious part, from all the different aspects. So where we will end up with this story, it's really, I think it takes AI maybe, not the human brain, as the things, are developing. But we are definitely intervening on human bodies in a manner never seen before. In the future, we will discuss, I guess, later, we are connecting inorganic with organic. We are really passing through all the obstacles we had in front of us, And we're opening some new frontiers that are very, very difficult to define what will happen to us as humans. Whether we will really one day take everything that we have in our brain and download it in some computer and then upload it in some artificial organism, some silicon organism, I don't know. It seemed like a science fiction, but now with things that are happening, well, science fiction is just a question of time, I think.
Absolutely. We cannot agree more, and I think we need to be ready because whether we like it or not, AI will play a key role. It's just about how we manage it and how we mitigate the risks out of it.
Absolutely, but concerning legal aspects and ethical, we're really lagging behind.
Absolutely, absolutely. And no matter how much we try to advance regulations and policies, the next day there's something new that we need to adapt to. So it's extremely hard to catch up with. And if you allow me, I'll maybe to this, thank you for this, Your Excellency, I'll maybe move to His Excellency Minister Kokkinos. I mean, the governments, and we've seen companies now adapting AI and the involvement of AI in the metaverse. The magnitude is absolutely immense, and the opportunities, we haven't even scratched the surface. And I personally witnessed a few metaverse experiences, whether in Davos or here in the UAE. Mm-hmm. And it's scary, but at the same time, there's so much opportunity in it. So how can governments really play a role to ensure that we extract the best out of this opportunity while mitigating the risks?
You hit the nail rightly. It's scary and it's exciting. There is so much mysticism and skepticism around metaverse because there is the proponents of metaverse, they say this is a step change, this is a revolution, it's not an evolutionary technology. But the skepticists or the opponents of it, they say this is the dehumanization. And then there is a debate. Are we talking about humanization of technology or humanization of machines or mechanization of humans? And fortunately or unfortunately, it's both. Yeah. So I think before we start, I answered your question, what governments have to do in order to accelerate. Let's agree on one thing. There is no consensus and one single definition of what is metaverse. Is it just a marketing term that has been coined and everybody is going behind it? Is it a marketing fad? We need to take a bold step on that. And we need to be conscious. But at the same time, we cannot ignore it. It's too big to be ignored. Personally, I see three pillars on metaverse. One is a technology layer, or the technology pillar, which includes computing, telecommunications, media industry, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, all these good technologies that combine the DNA of metaverse. But then it comes the human dimension, which very few people touch it. And here comes the humanities sciences, the social scientists, to work with the technologists and decide what are the consequences, the implications, how can we avoid the risks associated, the pitfalls that we might step into. And remember, metaverse is uncharted waters. We've never been through such a technological revolution. Or even if we say that it's evolution, still, it's too big. So one is the technology, the other is the humanities, and I firmly believe that a lot of research and development and innovation effort has to be put, combining the forces between the scientists, technologists, scientists, and people from the humanities and social sciences to define the risks on personal identity, on data privacy, on the existential, because sometimes we grew up in a real world. Here we have a real world. If this is blurred with a virtual reality world, and it is so extensive, and the two worlds coexist 5, 10, 15 hours a day, like we do with internet today. With our mobile phones, we're always connected.
Yeah.
So metaverse is at the stage where internet was about 25, 30 years back. It's at an infancy stage. So we need to be very careful and work together to see how we progress and we take advantage and we reap the benefits of metaverse, but in a very more careful way. Overexcitement is very dangerous. Undermining it or ignoring it is too dangerous as well. So the third layer is the regulatory framework and how this powerful technology is being used by humans, by citizens, by individuals, by nations, by scientists. So that's my introduction about metaverse, because unless we all agree on these three main dimensions, I cannot answer your direct question, what can governments do? The first thing to do is to touch equally and in a balanced way the three dimensions. Once you do that, then you have to set up initiatives in each government and that will investigate the use cases in the learning technologies, on museum and libraries, on agriculture, on citizen services, and how you do that by creating public and private partnerships. Governments alone cannot do it. You need to work hand in hand with the private sector. And because I mentioned the dimension of humanities and social sciences before, I insist that on this PPP, you need to include academia as well, academic research. People that can talk about it and can really touch the issue at the very deep fabric of metaverse. Once we do that, then I believe that governments cannot do it alone. Governments have to move carefully in a progressive way, hand in hand with the private sector and academia, and I'm sure that a lot of good things can be derived out of it, and at the same time we will save a lot of pitfalls that we might be trapped into and we cannot see them today. Thank you.
If you allow me, Your Excellency, just to a follow on this, because what you've mentioned is very important, and you've mentioned how we need to strike a balance of extracting the value and mitigating the risk. And you've mentioned the risks of data and beyond. I'll tell you my personal fear, and I'm sure it's on top of many people's heads. And you tapped into it. It's the human side of things and the fear of seeing our children immerse into this technology that has so much value, and looking at them and how smart they are in actually using this technology. And we haven't even scratched the surface on where this is taking us as a world. And you've mentioned the social skills, the physical well-being, the mental well-being, let alone the other risks you mentioned, which are extremely important, which is the privacy and the data. But this side of things, this human angle and the preserving of the human capital, how do you really balance this? And I apologize for adding this as an additional question.
Unfortunately, I am a technologist, and I don't have the answer, because the answer relies on social sciences and humanities. That's why I call them in for help. In my ministry, when I issue programs for funding research on technology, especially this kind of technology, I impose to them that they will include social scientists as part of their proposal, otherwise they will not get the funding.
Absolutely.
It's very important to be aware, because we don't know what we don't know.
100%.
And one thing that is extremely important, as we progress through all these technological revolutions, not just the metaverse one, but the biotech that Her Excellency mentioned before, remember one thing: we are born to be humans and remain humans. And we need to be able to continue to feel our people, our companions, feel and touch. And as metaverse, the biggest risk that I see and think that we need to protect ourselves, not to escape from it, but to protect and put a Chinese wall between the two, is don't let the next generation confuse the real world with the virtual world. Because if your kids or grandchildren will be immersed in a virtual reality world for 10, 12 hours a day, all year round, then for them, the virtual world will be the real world.
Absolutely. We can't agree more, Your Excellency, and thank you for your input. And to your points about the happiness of us physically being together, I mean, we've seen this in the World Government Summit and how from the version of pre-COVID to now and the extreme numbers that have increased, because just people like to interact and rub shoulders and connect with one another, no matter how much technology advances and creates shorter connections for us. Dr. Perricos, if you don't mind, thank you and great to see you again.
Great to be here.
If you don't mind elaborating on this ChatGPT, and I'm sure it's the talk of the town now, but my main concern here is, or interest to be fair, on where will this take us? This is just the beginning, and when will artificial be artificial general intelligence, and where is that evolving?
So that is a very interesting question, and I think as my esteemed fellow panelists already said, the future is very difficult to predict, as we discussed outside. I think I always say that when making predictions about the technology future, the one prediction I can make is that most of us are going to get it wrong. Because what we have seen is we've got two things as humans that work against us in predicting these things. The first thing is that we as humans tend to view the world linearly and the future linearly. So when something happens that is exponential, we cannot predict it accurately. It's why many years ago, Bill Gates, you may remember, said 640 kilobytes should be more than enough memory that you will ever need in a computer, which of course is less memory than is in your credit card today. And so when something explosive happens, like the data explosion, or like what we're seeing now with artificial intelligence, I could sit here and say, you know, based on what we're seeing with ChatGPT and other technologies, oh, general artificial intelligence is here. I don't think it is. Because the second thing that I think counts against us in predicting the future, and I think you mentioned it yourself, we tend to get very excited about incremental steps in technology. Some of you may remember in 1997 when Deep Blue Computer beat Kasparov in chess. Everyone then was like, oh my God, are we going to have general artificial intelligence? A few years later, Watson beat the contestants in Jeopardy. I don't know if you remember that, which was more around processing language. Everybody said exactly the same thing. Have we got general artificial intelligence? I think this is another step. And I personally don't think that we're going to get what is broadly the definition of general artificial intelligence, probably for another decade or so. And the reason why I'm perhaps a bit more pessimistic than everyone is that it's always the last 10% that is actually really, really difficult, that we don't give ourselves enough credit as humans, right? If I can give you an example, we've been talking about autonomous vehicles for how many years now? 5, 6, 7 years, and it's always around the corner where you'll have a car that drives everywhere. I'm very lucky. I have a car that drives itself. I would trust it 100% to drive on a motorway, and it can overtake, and I feel very, very safe. Would I trust it to drive in Dubai during rush hour or in London during rush hour with bicycles coming left, right, and center? I wouldn't. It's that last 10% that always makes it difficult, which is why I think that general artificial intelligence is probably further away than we think.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Back to Your Excellency, if you don't mind, because biotech is obviously an important topic of the future. And we've seen in the past the quantum advancement of this, the technologies in general, if you will. The technologies were as simple as back then, really innovative hearing devices that have been used to help people hear. Right now, we've reached a point where technologies can reach the brain, where the brain can send a signal and a reaction to happen without us being part of that, using that. Companies such as Neuralink are exploring this. So what's the limit on how this can be governed, how this can be used, and where are we heading with that?
Again, I don't know where we're heading, really. I mean, when I started my studies in molecular biology, there was biology, physics, and chemistry. Then, personal computers came, mobile phones came. Then the interchange and convergence of ICT and life sciences happened. So I really see it as a fifth industrial revolution, something completely new. Then we have AI. Now AI is evolving. And at those times, you know, interconnection between human and machine was like a science fiction movie. But it's, you know, it's happening. First interfaces were like just some devices that have been used for industrial processes, some computers, some screens. But now we're talking about connection, again, between inorganic and organic, between computer and the human brain. So the computer can now really perceive what the human brain is doing. It's been done, although on animal models, but it's been done. But what is next? I mean, our mind will communicate with computer, vice versa. Then our mind will communicate with other machines, I guess. Then our mind will control the machines. I don't know whether it's going to be, you know, two-way street. It's very difficult. I'm not so deep in that field. And then there are also predictions that our minds as humans will be able to communicate among ourselves, like through Wi-Fi of some kind, organic or inorganic. So this really raises a question of some kind of metahumans in terms of, you know, people with superpowers. We used to read about them in comic books, but now we are really on the edge of making people with superpowers. I'm expecting that we will also communicate maybe in the future in a very similar way with our organs. So we will know when something is wrong in the organ, maybe it's time to, you know, change it. And meanwhile, we're in parallel developing, you know, methodologies to grow the organs. So this is really going in parallel and very, again, difficult to predict what will happen with humankind. But nevertheless, this human-machine interface is becoming more and more a reality. So not science fiction anymore. And we as humans, you know, we were always striving to have more special powers to get them in a way as we can. So, and then again, at the end, shall we then maybe transfer our brains to just supercomputers, or shall we transfer our brains to artificial organisms, maybe organic, maybe some combination of carbon-based and silicon-based? So I'm really now, when I'm speaking about this, I mean, 20 years ago, it was for just a science fiction book or movie. Yeah. But now we're sitting here today and we see pieces of puzzle that are already there.
Yeah. Thank you for this. And I think speaking of those puzzles is a great segue, Your Excellency, to maybe connect to the government's view in the sense that, I mean, the key message from Davos and from the World Government Summit was combined that we're living in a fragmented world. And no matter how much one area or one policy gets advanced on one side, I think this won't be enough. So from your view as a government, what can be done to kind of mitigate this fragmentation? Because clearly we see that in order for technologies like this, AI specifically, to really succeed, you need that unity, as you mentioned, and you need that PPP, and you need that collaboration. But how can you do it on a global basis in the most seamless way?
It's a very difficult thing to achieve. It's quite a challenge because there is a political, economical, and societal dimension on it. And unfortunately, we've experienced in the past 20, 30 years a digital divide between the countries or the nations that are digitally their digital fitness is more advanced than others. Remember that 40% of Earth population does not yet have internet. Can you imagine? It's 40%. We take it for granted that the internet is embedded into our life. We consider ourselves as digital natives, although we are digital immigrants, most of us, because we migrated from the analog world to the digital. Now, imagine with the new technologies that we're talking about, biotech, or artificial intelligence, or metaverse, these technologies are very strong weapons, and politically, this is in the hands of strong economies or advanced, technologically advanced societies. And they will not be willing to share this power. It's a power game. It's an economic as well as political. And then it comes the problem or the challenge of the societal dimension, how the societies will coexist. That's why I believe that we need to rethink again and again, and in forums like this one or the Davos Forum, political leaders and technologists and business philosophers and sociologists, we need to work together to see how we do not enlarge this digital divide, because we're not talking about digital divide anymore. With the power of these technologies, honestly, I feel that some countries, some nations, some people will remain in the dark ages compared to where things will be in 15, 20 years from today. And I didn't see any such a movement so far. I'm coming from a small country. My country is a country of less than 1 million people. Yes, it's a Western country, it's a developed country, and we enjoy a good standard of living, and we are technologically advanced, etc. Okay, what can I do about it? Alone, as a 1 million country, very little. But I can advocate, I can pass this message. I feel that you cannot sacrifice the happiness and the well-being of 40 or 30% of the population of our planet just to be a stronger America, a stronger Europe, a stronger Asia. I know I'm not talking technology now, I'm talking about society. But at the end of the day, technology should be for the good of the society, should be for the good of people, not just for me or for my country or for my neighborhood or for my family. So as these superpower tools, biotech, metaverse, AI, is giving us these opportunities, we should be very careful how we share this wealth of technological capabilities. And if we abuse it, at the end of the day, it will backfire on us. Think of the analogy of the climate change. What climate change has been? Abusing or overusing or ignoring the bad use of fuels and for creating an economy that is more advanced in the United States, in Europe, in industrialized countries. Who is paying the penalty now? Planet Earth, including those that created the problem. So this is an analogy that we might see in 10, 20 years from now by exploiting in a selfish way the power of AI and biotech and metaverse and the likes. So what governments have to do is a coalition. And I know my voice is just in a small audience like this now. I hope that this message is propagated and is amplified through you and other conferences that I'm talking about these matters. And we proactively take the right steps forward. I'm not saying to stop progress in the world. I'm saying to be united when we use this kind of technologies for the well-being of our societies.
I think, I mean, very well said, Your Excellency, and your voice is very well heard, and I think we need to leverage on those convenings to make sure change happens. We're also a small nation here, but with massive ambitions, and we use this platform and many others to really voice our opinion, but I think we need to unite to get things happen. Like I said, I mean, when I was in Serbia as well and seeing the momentum on the biotech forum, gatherings like this is what takes it to the next level.
May I add something?
Please, of course.
My country is a member state of the European Union, okay? When I see European Union policies on such matters, or even on technological matters like AI policy or Digital Europe 2030, etc., what I see is a fragmentation of policies that have no substrate. There are pillars of initiatives, the right initiatives, but what is missing is the foundation. And I see a competing between countries, even within the European Union. I see a lot of, because each country is not a United States of America, it's not United States of Europe, it's Germany, it's Sweden, it's Denmark, it's Estonia, it's Cyprus, so we see different agenda between South Europe and North Europe or Central Europe. We see, and we don't even get it right. And this is my self-criticism as a European as well.
Thank you, Excellency. My friend, Dr. Perricos, I think maybe from the private side, if you don't mind elaborating on how you see it on the private side, in the sense of how can we really achieve this, resolving those technological kind of challenges, but create solutions out of them. How is your view from the private side? But at the same time, you talk about maybe from a tech perspective, the tech humanization, and what will we see virtual assistants as robots and AI, and what would be the area that is at most disruption and growth, if you will? So two questions combined, if you don't mind.
Yes, indeed. I'd also like to perhaps preface that with some of the comments you made, because I'm very, very much aligned with you. I think as humanity, we need to come together more to solve the problems. But everybody gets very excited about general artificial intelligence and virtualization of humans and humanization of machines. And while all that excitement happens, we forget about some of the things that are going on in the world of AI that have massive, massive sort of impact on humanity. I think, for example, we're going to get nuclear fission thanks to AI before we get general artificial intelligence. I think that's going to be huge for the planet. You know, we're seeing AI solve protein folding, which has a very, very big impact in drug discovery and health. We're seeing in drug discovery more and more drugs being produced much cheaper thanks to AI. We're seeing AI solving some really big climate problems, from actually modeling climate change and being able to predict climate, to actually, I met a company the other day that has managed to reduce the energy consumption of steel and carbon and concrete production by 20%, you know, which is the equivalent of taking several 100,000 cars off the road. So all these things create excitement for me around how I think AI is going to change humanity. But to answer your question around the metaverse, I think we're going to see, and I think my fellow panelists alluded to it, we're going to see the virtualization, the virtualization of humans and the mechanization of technology. So we're going to see virtual assistants that sound more and more like humans, to the point that they will pass the Turing test. You won't be able to tell that it's a human. We're already seeing that, where, you know, other than just the normal things we might hear from Siri or Alexa or some of the virtual assistants, they're creating voices that have stutters and have inflections that we humans have that make us human. They're very, very good at doing that, for example. So, you know, I can see within the next 2 years, if you're booking a restaurant or you're booking a hair appointment or you're interacting with someone on the phone, you will not be able to tell whether they're human. I think then moving from virtual machines to virtual physical machines, we're going to see more and more lifelike physical robots. There's a lot of research going into facial expressions and into making robots look more humans. I saw a great company the other day that creates sort of living dolls for children that have autism and that find it difficult to sort of communicate, and focus on facial expressions. And then it's really amazing. So then that covers the machines. Then let's look at humans. I mean, my fellow panelists have already talked about us connecting to machines and even downloading to machines. But I think we are going to find ourselves living more and more in the metaverse and in virtual worlds. Maybe not us in our rooms, but our children already live in the metaverse. Our children.
Does this worry you though?
It does. It worries me a lot, and it worries me because, to the points already made, their physical interactions are affected by it. I notice it in our young workforce.
Yes.
Their ability to communicate
so well.
So it's
scary,
or write letters or write emails.
Yes.
It's I notice it, and I do worry. And talking about well-being, we've seen instances of young people who have died because they were playing so much online that they forgot to eat. So, as we become more virtualized as humans, and we do spend more time in the metaverse, and I don't want to suggest that it's all a terrible thing. I think the metaverse has huge potential.
Yeah.
If we look at universities and learning, for example, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to actually be in the Pompey Theater and watch Julius Caesar get assassinated and be able to talk to people? All these sort of things are for me, create a lot of hope. But to the points that have already been made much better than me by my panelists, we need to understand the risks, and we need to understand that just because we're in the virtual world, we still need to have regulation, and we still need to have laws, and we still need to remain human.
I cannot agree more. And I think, as someone responsible of a future entity as well, I've been asked sometimes, and I highlight the cons more than the pros. It's just because we do not see value of this, but we really need to be wary. And to your point, we see kids understanding even cities around the world because they're into a game and they understand the nature of the city, the kind of plants and the environment, is because they're immersed into the city. They probably learned it even in a much better way than actually being taught in a school or in a book, because they're so immersed into it.
Absolutely.
So we can't agree more, but I think there are also risks that we need to worry about. Your Excellency, if you don't mind, and we'll be wrapping up very soon with the final remarks, but on the government side as well, as a leader in the government, and like I said, the ICT sector and the advancement in Serbia has been extremely noticeable and was a main driver of the economy in the past years. And now the Biotech Forum. How is the agility of the government in general in embracing those technologies and ensuring that there is the right environment for those technologies to thrive, biotech and beyond?
To embrace new technology, it takes time. There is always, resistance within individuals, within the groups, within the governments. Nevertheless, we as the government went through one process, that was process of digitalization and really introducing ICT in all of the aspects of the government, but not only of the government, of everyday's life. So we made that first step, and now I think we have a bigger step ahead of us because we talk about biotech. We talk about something that people are not aware that it's tackling and influencing everyday's life. From personalized medicine, biomedicine, agriculture, food production, food safety, environment protection, energy, and it's on our doorstep. And very important thing that we realized as a government is communication. We realized this particularly during the COVID time. So this process needs all the stakeholders. So we need all the citizens to be involved, to be informed, to be very transparent, because if you make a wrong moves, particularly with biotech that is developing in really, sometimes even for the scientists, in a scary way and an amazing way at the same time. So you need people to be on the same side, to be aware, so we can communicate and put some frameworks, some boundaries, some ethical boundaries, which are becoming more and more important. but the communication is really important. So the government is now put a new goal in front of us, all of us. So this is biotechnology as a future technology that will assist us in improving our lives, improving the lives of our citizens, and also that will influence our economy. This is happening all around the world, but nevertheless not all around the world. So there are some countries that are really evolving thanks to biotech, and there are countries that are lagging behind. So it's very important, maybe even on a global level, to communicate on this and not to leave anyone behind. And there is also a potential threat, at least at this moment, that these technologies are available for the rich, either rich individuals or rich countries, and we cannot allow this, because this technology, was brought by a million of intelligent, smart people and scientists for the better of whole humankind. So we cannot forget about this.
Thank you very much. Very well said, Your Excellency. Any final remarks on what Her Excellency had mentioned to wrap up on advice on how we can extract the best value, and maybe conclude with that, please?
Well, my key message here is that every government and European Union as a whole, talking about my region, my continent, is that we need to decide. We have 4 options. Ignore it. For me, it's not an option, but some countries decided to just ignore it, the future of metaverse and the impact. Be a follower. So we don't ignore, we are following, but we don't want to be a fast mover. The fast mover is another option, and the shaper is another option. If you choose to be a follower or a fast mover or even a shaper, you need to make a coalition with scientists from social sciences, from private sector, like companies like the AI domain and other sectors. So my key message is that you need to do a stakeholder mapping that cannot just be, again, government, or cannot just be technologists. Especially if you want to be a fast mover, you need to team up with technologists, as well as with scientists from social sciences and humanities, as well as from the private sector, and draft in an agile way your way forward. Remember, this journey is in uncharted waters, and should be ready to readjust your trip and your journey as you move along and enjoy. It's going to be a roller coaster, and there will be a lot of excitement, but a lot of scary findings as well. Thank you.
With that, if you allow me, first of all, Your Excellency Begović, thank you so much for your kind words. Your Excellency Kokkinos, thank you so much for your contribution. And Dr. Perricos, we enjoyed this so much. I know that us at Dubai Future Foundation, we will aggregate all the discussions and data. And like you said, Your Excellency, we're also a small nation, but we will all put our hands together to create a better future. So thank you once again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.